On this episode of Movies Ruined My Life, everyone gets really angry and we all say fuck a lot. It's Quentin Tarantino. All right, this is Danny. This is East. This is Devon. I'm Brandon. This week we're talking about Quentin Tarantino. And this is a lofty subject. We might go all over the fucking place with this one because this is a guy that came into prominence kind of in our golden age of discovery for film. I think across the board. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So definitely, for me, a lot of first exposures to a lot of different sorts of cinema that I then subsequently fell in love with as a result of him. He's been a conduit, and I feel like he has been for a lot of people of our generation, getting into him, borrowing from all sorts of different kinds of cinema, him just being this movie store nerd and finding, this this love for film and sharing it with the world is so fucking respectable. A guy whose first film, I guess Reservoir Dogs, premiered at Cannes, right? Or Cannes?
God.
to rave reviews. And hasn't stopped since. Just been a fucking machine about banging out solid movies, basically, every 2-3 years since 92. Also a great year because the Jays won the World Series.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful year.
Wonderful year.
Yeah. Almost so good you'd almost want to name your band after that.
Yeah. Okay, so all of his early films are distributed by Miramax. Great era for Miramax. Some of my favorite films, like The Crow and Dark City, were with Alex Proyas. Obviously, Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, Jackie Brown.
All the Kevin Smiths.
Yeah, the Kevin Smiths were there as well. Just so many great filmmakers getting their break in this era and with this particular studio. And, also pretty amazing monetary results. We talked a little bit about these little films that could last time that you were here, East. Mm-hmm. And Tarantino in his early work definitely fits into this, Reservoir Dogs done for just over $1 million, $1.2 million. Went on to gross $22 million at the box office, and I can't even imagine what this movie's done on DVD. All the different collector's editions and so forth that are available. It's really, really cool. 92% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I'm hard pressed to think of any film of his, maybe with the exception of Death Proof, that we're looking at right now. We're all like scrolling down the page to see that that hasn't been just super received by critics, well received by critics, and also well received by audiences alike. I went into this a bit earlier. I don't traditionally like to open a conversation with your first experience or how did you get into these films, but I think that this is a guy that you have to do that for.
Oh yeah.
This is a guy that you have to do that for. Do you want to go clockwise around the table? What was your first exposure and how did you get into Tarantino, Danny?
Pulp Fiction, like everybody. I avoided it for years because my sister found it confusing, and so I trusted her for some reason and just didn't watch it for 5 years because she said, it's backwards. It doesn't make any sense. So yeah, the linear. I think she preferred linear stuff. But the first time I watched it, how old was I? Probably 15.
Really?
Yeah. So I came pretty late to Tarantino, and at the time I thought it was a pretty big deal that Bruce Willis was in the movie. Not so much anyone else he snagged.
Yeah.
And then reading about it now, it turned out that was a coup for Tarantino.
Yeah.
Because Willis was a major movie star in '95, who took a massive pay cut. So. Yeah, it'd be Pulp Fiction.
East?
Pulp Fiction, for me, I was 12, and it was on WB 49 one night, and I watched it, and I was blown away. His head's dead, baby. That was when
Yeah.
it was cool because that's when I thought the movie actually ended because that's where Pulp Fiction does end, and then as soon as it fades off and then it goes to black and it goes right back to Samuel L. Jackson and John Travolta in the restaurant.
Which happens earlier.
Yeah, we've heard, we've seen, we know. And I was like, holy shit, this movie just keeps going? Fucking right. Okay, here we go. But yeah, that was my first love affair.
Yeah, same. I mean, I don't know. I think it's where a lot of people from our generation started. I mean, I think Reservoir Dogs was still a little bit too underground for when you're 12 or 13 years old. You're not exactly seeking that stuff out. And Jackie Brown. I think I probably saw Pulp Fiction around the time that Jackie Brown would have already been out.
Yeah.
But it's again, for a younger but mature
Mature for their
for
age.
a young kid. I think Jackie Brown still doesn't it isn't really as easy for you to get into at that age. Whereas Pulp Fiction, I mean, it's like a comic, it's in a lot of ways, and that was where I got into it. I think it was like a chance, renting a movie at a sleepover or something at a friend's house. Like we go, ride our bikes to Blockbuster or something and get somebody's parents to like
one game and two movies, man.
Yeah, exactly.
I actually did get exposed to Reservoir Dogs first, and it's a really weird story. Not really, but because I was such a movie idiot in my early teenage years, I remember we were living in Brampton, and at Christmas, all of my family just would buy random movies, and one of the ones that I got was the collector's edition of Reservoir Dogs, which I had no idea what it was. And to be honest, the first time I saw it, I was fucking horrified. Because you're 13 years old, and particularly I remember being bothered by the all the blood in the back seat of the fucking car.
That's the first scene, isn't it?
Yeah.
Tim
And
Roth
it
shot
was
in his
just
stomach.
You're not gonna die.
Yes. You're gonna be okay. Say the goddamn word. And just it was like a fucking downhill from there. That like the shit in Tarantino's head, and the opening sequence, just gratuitous talk. As much as it bothered me, I was fucking hooked because it's like you're 13 years old. You're like, just give me all of the terrible things in the world so I can absorb them. I like to hear people cursing and blood and nudity and whatnot. And like I said, it was completely accidental. It was one of those things that I went through every film that I just kind of got for Christmas, and then I remember watching that one last, like, oh, okay, fine, I'll give it a shot. Much in the same way as I've come to like the Metal Gear series, I came to that the same way in video games, like just chance encounter of a Christmas gift. And so interesting that out of that, I became addicted to this guy's films, and goes without saying, we're doing a fucking podcast on it. So what we're gonna do is in the next segment, the next two segments of this episode, we're each gonna kind of elect our favorite film or the most notable work from Tarantino's catalog, and talk about it. But before we get into that, I want to talk about some of the staples of this man's style and some of the effects that he's had subsequently on cinema. East, you already touched briefly on the, and so did you, Danny, on the non-linear storytelling method that he takes, which, yes, obviously is a dramatic tool, but also is just kind of, it's an interesting way to kind of keep your audience on the edge of their seats. And keep them engaged, because they're, you really do have to follow his stories incredibly closely. Even something that's more linear, like, we all know he wrote True Romance, and even though that film is very linear, you still very much have to follow it. You have to be on the edge of your seat and follow every fucking thing that Christian Slater says, or like when he, all I don't know. Every piece of his work, you're either in or you're out, and if you're in, it's the greatest experience of your fucking life.
Yeah.
Yeah, True Romance, it's like, it is linear, but it's explosive because there's at least 3 storylines. There's the Elliot cocaine, and he's the film director. There's Christian Slater's. My sister hates that movie, by the way.
Yeah.
She thinks Christian Slater's like Dennis the Menace in that movie. And then there's the actor, whose name I forgot, who gets the part at the end, doesn't he?
Yes.
Michael Rappaport?
Michael Rapport.
Yeah, Rapport, yes.
Yeah.
He's great.
And then I think that's it, because Brad Pitt's just at home.
Yeah, he's just smoking weed
He's
and
not
chilling
seeking
on the porch.
anything.
Yeah.
Not to mention that is the only movie to actually utilize Belky outside of fucking Perfect Strangers and make him kind of like badass. You know what I mean? Like Gordon Pinchot in True Romance is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Nobody like he's just incredible. Like True Romance is I do love that movie, and you can tell the writing style of Quentin Tarantino in that movie, especially your pot eggplant. With Dennis Hopper and Christopher Walken. Like I love that Christopher Walken. Very similar sort of character that he had in Pulp Fiction, where he's only in one scene.
Yeah.
And it's the best monologue you'll probably ever hear in your entire life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, say me to the angels, they'll be damned to know who it is. Name of God. Fuck, he's just the man, Quint, I love True.
Yeah, another one I want to quickly touch on too. I'm sorry, you go ahead, Devon. You go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say on the same topic, kind of like the monologues, like just the way that he writes dialogue. There's no person I feel that, like, it's almost like all of the characters are it's like one voice speaking, but split across multiple characters. Like it's the same tone, the same like everything is so perfect, but you don't feel like it's too much. You never feel like that. And in the monologues especially, the way this one character can break into this long. Basically laying out like the theme of the movie almost in a lot of cases, or just going off on something completely unrelated. Like just telling a story within the story.
A great example is Kill Bill Volume 2 with Carradine doing the Superman thing.
Yeah. Or another walk and doing the watch.
The watch
story in Pulp Fiction. That it's just
this watch.
But it's such a fantastic dialogue writer. It's uncanny,
and it's so beautifully stylized. I don't know if I necessarily agree with you that he has one voice. I think out of the guys that came out of that era, I think the most guilty of that is Kevin Smith, most likely. Like I always feel like his dialogue is literally just him falling in love with his words. And, that being said, I love Kevin Smith, and that we can address that in another episode. But I don't know as I agree on that front. I do agree in the sense that the dialogue that Tarantino writes, no one else on the fucking planet can write that dialogue. He is one of a kind. And, I think that he does grant a lot of perspective to his characters individually. And he's very talented, and Pulp Fiction is a good example where he will drive someone to both love these terrible characters, but then still be morally responsible in that he'll put the wrong ideas in their head. So this guy is the one that's gone astray, and he is wrong in this situation, and his dialogue is wrong, and things like that. Like there is a moral undertone to his work. It's not all one heartbeat. It's not all one thought process. It is, but it's presented to you from both sides of an argument in a lot of cases, which is really interesting. Say, for example, the tipping scene in Reservoir Dogs, or I'm struggling to think of another example because I just brought this up off the top of my head. But the same movie, like the whole situation with what they're going to do with the cop and so on. Like this, it's really interesting how he does that. How he's able to send the right message to the audience, but through all these varied opinions that are all from different points on the scale of being completely fucking insane to being completely in the right.
Yeah. I mean, maybe I chose the wrong words. I mean, maybe it's more that, like, I think when you've got a scene between two people talking or something like that, they connect on such like a perfect
it's fluid.
level.
It's so beautiful.
And so there's a lot of variance between the characters, but when they're interacting with one another, it's almost too perfect.
It's
like
real.
If for
Yeah, very stylized and very elevated, but at the same time, like you said,
stylized is
approachable.
the word. Like it's really, really written dialogue, quote unquote written. Like he does give his characters their own interiority, but he kind of makes sure he ensures that all of his characters like the things that he likes.
Oh, absolutely.
So he's been accused of that, like probably the nadir of his, like Death Proof is probably the worst. That conversation around the table where they're talking about Vanishing Point, because he does use his characters as like surrogates for his own pop culture views. But
see,
like,
the Vanishing Point thing, I have no problem with, because Vanishing Point is one of the best fucking car chases ever. Like right up there for me with like Bullet, and even we were talking about T2.
the T2 motorcycle truck chase.
And for me, I think that's setting the stage for what's coming, is getting people subconsciously primed for an attempt at an epic car chase sequence. So that particular example, I don't disagree with you, but I just feel as though like Vanishing Point sits perfectly in that fucking film, because like that just everything about Vanishing Point is like, it's, you don't remember anything about that fucking movie but those fucking chargers and like the great driving sequences. So I don't know. I didn't mean to bring you to a fucking halt with your thought.
It makes sense to like, okay, yeah, he's referencing the very movie he's trying to outdo.
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
And Jackie Brown, I remember earlier in the movie, Samuel L. Jackson mentions Mandingo, the 75 blaxploitation movie, one of the last big ones, and he's trying to outdo that. So maybe that's a recurring thing throughout his movies.
But you are right. Like for example, the Delphonics in Jackie Brown, that's somewhat guilty of that. The revisiting a track that, while it's it's an important track, obviously reimagined by Maurice Starr and New Kids on the Block. But that is a big departure, or like the Superman departure or what have you. He's injecting his own thoughts in people's head, but you can't exactly fault someone for that, because it's you look at a guy like Nolan, for example, in his arguably his best of the Batman movies, he's got 15 people all saying I'm playing this close to the vest, and things like he's got 15 different characters. They're all like, this is close to the vest.
And not to mention, I also do ridicule, as much as I love The Dark Knight, I do ridicule that movie because it had pretty much every single scene from the original Tim Burton Batman just placed in a different order.
Yeah.
Like the scene, whatever. That's a whole other conversation.
Yeah. Let's not depart too much. I've already taken this too far off the track.
Yeah,
let's have some Girl Guide cookies. They're wonderful. I don't know. One thing I did, we can't not talk about. We're all musicians. We love music. Goes without saying. And this man is the fucking purveyor of musical selections. Like the trendsetter from '92 through to today. If it's in his film, it's a fucking classic. And it's not always that it was before. It's like, he picks an obscure band that he hears in a fucking mall, and then next thing you know, they're doing Kudo commercials, or like cell phone jingles and shit like that. He has been a trendsetter from day one in terms of his music selections, and much in the way that Paul Thomas Anderson or someone like that, another director that came out of that same era, is. But I feel as though Tarantino doesn't hide behind his music selections. I think that they're still the same way that I think like Paul Thomas Anderson is. He uses them very much as an emotive tool, and I don't think Tarantino does. He very much injects them like, this is fucking cool, and this can be part of my universe, and it's a universe building tool instead of a tool for the audience. It's putting you into the world, not into the scene. And
he
absolutely.
He doesn't always pick what's like. I mean, a lot of people doing that kind of stuff will look for a song that is a kind of direct analog for what they're visually trying to present to you.
Yeah.
Whereas it's almost like it's haphazard, just like he is just throwing in something that he thinks you'll like, not necessarily something that actually
he did all these
belong.
And all these action films of the early 2000s that came out that all of a sudden had all these musical pieces that were kind of a juxtaposition to what was going on in the scene. The Transporter comes to mind, films like that, where he's the guy that started that trend up again. He was the only one doing it through the 90s. Again, Paul Thomas Anderson to a lesser extent, where you would have this intense moment, and you would have music that was part of the world, not part of your emotional response to it.
But the great thing is,
it's created that loop that's now carried on for 20 years subsequently, or more than.
And the characters in the movie as well, like, that's that music that they themselves would listen to. And you can see that, especially in that scene in Pulp Fiction, when John Travolta is with Uma Thurman and they're in the diner.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, but there's 2 Marilyn Monroes. He's like, no, that's Marilyn Monroe. And he points out the other actors. I can't remember her name. You know what I mean? He's like,
Was it Mimi Van Doren?
Yeah. He's like, that's Marilyn Monroe. That's Mimi Van Doren. And that's Buddy Holly. And he's like literally calling out everything. Mm-hmm. It's good shit, because that was the music that Vega listened to.
And it's so cool that the very first time we ever see this filmmaker do anything, he's talking about his interpretation on Madonna, and it's him talking. It's fucking Tarantino talking about Madonna getting a big fat dick. Like that's the first time that you hear this.
Yeah. After a radio DJ extras a song,
Yeah.
Right, so at the dance scene in Pulp Fiction, they're dancing to Chuck Berry, and I'm thinking Vincent Vega is familiar with the song at least, right? Because he knows all those guys from that era.
And he's twisting.
Which is probably why he's dancing so well. And then they go home, and Uma Thurman listens to what? That Urge Overkill song?
Yeah.
Girl, You'll Be a Woman Soon?
Yeah.
So obviously she likes that song, and then she snorts heroin thinking it's coke.
That was so confusing
music.
as a kid. I thought she just did like too much cocaine, and I thought maybe you can put cocaine in a needle. I guess.
Yeah, it's
like
funny.
I didn't.
Yeah, that's funny, man. Because I didn't really get into understanding Quentin Tarantino until I was in grade 10 English, and I had a teacher who was explaining to us short stories, and to explain us how short stories work, he put on Pulp Fiction, because it's pretty much just a bunch of short stories in the fucking movie, right? And so when that scene came on, he was just like, so this is how Quentin Tarantino set the movie in the 80s without saying it's the 80s, because, heroin's coming back. It's all in what is said. And then, sure, she is doing coke. Coke's huge in the fucking 80s. And thinking it's,
and the resurgence of 50s culture is definitely an easy way, because that happened in the 80s.
Absolutely, yeah, the Reagan era 101.
Yeah, so it's really interesting how he was able to amplify kind of a byproduct of society at the time, and then also conversely stylize it and create a very unique world, and things that have carried on throughout his films. Big Kahuna Burger comes to mind. Came back up in Death Proof. It's come back up in a few other films.
You just like that. I remember years ago you saying to me the reference to his glory days, the Big Kahuna Burger, Death Proof, and he says something about a tasty beverage when he's the bartender.
Yeah.
Is that a tasty beverage, or is that the recycling already coming up in 10 years? What was Death Proof 2006?
There's two sides of it, and you're right. I don't necessarily like it, but I also like the idea of those two films happening in the same universe, because it grants a new perspective on Death Proof, which I actually like that movie more than most people, I think. But
it's a good movie. But it's also referenced in Dusk Till Dawn as well.
Yeah,
is that all these places actually happened in the same world, which is there was an essay where a guy wrote that the reason why Kill Bill doesn't have that references is because that is a movie that the people that Uma Thurman and all of them would watch in the world of Pulp Fiction and all that. That's the type of movie that they would go see, is a Kill Bill.
Interesting.
That's why everything else has Big Kahuna Burger references, or sly references to his earlier work.
Yeah.
And so Django's supposed to be a movie that and Inglourious Bastards is supposed to... That's how World War II ended in the universe of Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah. Which is really cool. So we talked about the music. We've talked about the stylized dialogue. We've talked about... we haven't talked about the gratuitous violence yet. And I feel that this is also a callback to the 80s in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. Just over the top, just an obscene amount of blood and an obscene amount of gore, to the extent that it's almost comical. Obviously Kill Bill, the black and white, because of so much gore. Blood. Yeah, it's, it would be it would be X-rated if they had left it in color. You know, I very much like that. I like that as much as his harsher critics say, you know, he's a very violent filmmaker. He's very almost like sadistic. I've heard, you know, that term used, and I don't see that because I see very much the same thing as I see with something like the Evil Dead remake or even the original series. Obviously the original series, but the remake comes to mind because literally that last act of that movie, everything is fucking blood. But you know, I see him almost like stylizing violence in the same way that he does with everything else, where it doesn't desensitize you, but it makes you seek out other things to latch onto. Like you're not just watching some guy's head explode or what have you and being stuck on that. You're propelling forward. Okay, that happened, whatever, let's keep going. You know, you're even more engrossed in the story as a result of that.
Yeah, and I find it even like in a lot of movies they almost like romanticize violence by hiding a lot of that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you watch like you know, a 90s action film and it's like somebody gets shot in the head and there's like a half centimeter hole in like their forehead and like there's no blood anywhere because they're doing it to please the censors.
Yeah.
And it almost leaves you with like just you know, a movie that has a body count of like 200 people that you've never felt a thing for.
Yeah, and it also teaches kids that like if you shoot someone in the head, there's very little consequence.
And whereas with Pulp Fiction, like the accidental, like he's turning around in the car and he shoots the guy, and it is like it is a mess. It is like
Right. I mean, the next half hour of the film is dedicated to them cleaning up that mess, right? Yeah. They have to call the wolf over. I don't know why, because then he just tells them that they have to clean it.
Yeah.
Like, how would
Well,
they
he
not
disposes
know?
of the car. He disposes of the body.
Right. He brings it to the
Wolf's,
dump.
Wolf's the cool guy with the plan.
And
you know?
you need Keitel in that movie.
Yeah, he's there. He's there because time is a factor, you know. So
And he's also there in all seriousness because he's a champion of Tarantino. Like he got Reservoir Dogs to happen. Like let's be serious. Without
really
Keitel, that fucking movie never would have happened.
It was his idea to do all the casting in New York, which is where they found Tim Roth.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. It was mostly Harvey Keitel.
I want to take this episode for a second completely off the fucking tracks and go least favorite Tarantino film and why.
Jackie Brown.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Damn.
Oh, that's interesting.
Fuck you.
Yeah, fuck you is right. That is an unpopular opinion, sir, but let's hear why.
Really? That's the unpopular one?
Yeah, man. You got three guys here who it's either their first or second.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Three hot guys.
Wow. Yeah, and the guy whose dad tells him to turn around at family photos.
No. Four hot guys.
Jackie Brown. Why? It's the slowest. Here's the thing. I do love Jackie Brown, but out of all of them, for me, that's the weakest. Because I like Death Proof because I love car chases, and like fuck, that is one of the greatest car chase scenes going.
Since T2, yeah.
Yeah, like it's fucking, that's incredible. Inglourious Bastards, well, that was a good comedy, and I liked how he got older, like in Kill Bill and Inglourious Bastards and Django. He upped his use of color in his films, and I like that a lot. I just found that to go from Pulp Fiction into Jackie Brown. Pulp Fiction is this incredible movie, original screenplay, everything else, into Jackie Brown, which is based off a book. It's not something that's totally his. He's not as rooted to it and attached. And I think you could see that a bit more than in all of his other works. It's the least one of him that is represented.
Well, it was made for $12 million, grossed $74.7 million domestically. 87% on Rotten Tomatoes. So you're fucking wrong. But
well, here's...
but that's okay.
I
You
can
know,
definitely see
that's
why
all right.
it's disappointing coming after Pulp Fiction. Yeah, but
yeah,
anything
like
on
it's
his
pretty. It's 86% on Rotten Tomato, 64% on Metacritic. But again, we talk about how that means nothing. To be honest, if you're on the high 60s, that actually means you're probably getting more favorable reviews.
I do like. Here's the thing. I do love Jackie Brown. I just feel that is the movie that, in my mind, says it doesn't say Quentin Tarantino as much as the other movies do.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's all I'm saying.
My revenge against you,
I don't necessarily
Anthony East,
concur,
for that
but-
choice. Kill Bill, the series, and it's actually, it goes back to something that was said earlier. Sorry, I forget which one of you guys said it. Like you said it. It's the type of movie that these people would be watching. The rest of his movies are real people in like these surreal situations, whereas I feel like that's the one where it's like surreal people in these situations. Like it almost, like a lot of like a lot of the action is just way over the top. Like,
But he's still in that era of
surrealist.
Despicable people, which is nice.
And and also keep in mind, because Kill Bill is like, that's like, that's up there for me, and I found that movie is also, to be honest, it's his most diverse and it's his most challenging up until that point, because it was the first movie where he actually did full-on action sequences. It's the first movie where he's actually encompassing a whole other type of culture with the kung fu into the Western, whereas the other ones were just straight up crime drama films.
He's got anime. He's borrowing from a lot of classic tropes.
And that was the first movie where he did that on, what was it, like a $33 million budget? Was Kill Bill 1 and 2?
Something like that.
And then in total, both those movies grossed
both of them were done
$180
at
million
$30 mil.
each.
Yeah.
And I mean, like I said, I mean, it's just really like I mean, and maybe it does come back to just what like I've come to expect from him, like what I watch a Tarantino movie for, and I don't know. I mean, again, not to say that I didn't really enjoy them.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I just don't like. I just think if I were to sit down and I had to leave one out, or I guess two, but
right. That's the thing. That's the thing with Kill Bill. Then you're pulling
two from his filmography,
unless you can split them. I mean, most people prefer two. I prefer two.
I prefer one.
Oh,
yeah.
Well,
Because I love the Oren Ishii fight sequence. I also like the departure because I think it's actually amazing how he departs into an anime sequence and no one fucking blinks an eye.
Yeah, that's great.
And then he comes, and again, that fight sequence at the end is goddamn gorgeous. It's probably one of the best sword fight sequences that has happened in a long time. Just the close up, and we all know his foot fetish thing. He loves foot shots in film, and that's a really cool take on that. Even it's a completely different perspective than the one that you see in Pulp Fiction with the wiggle your big toe, and then when she gets out, the crossed feet shot, and so forth. And you get like Oren's slipper, and then the blood, and like there's just the and you feel for Oren. So I think I prefer one over two if I have to split them. I wanted to go back to something you said though, Devon, which is the when we were talking about when I jumped in on you and said the despicable characters thing. I like that I'm not supposed to like any of the characters in his films, and why I can't subscribe to your thought process, East, is because the only character pretty much up to this point that you can kind of say, well, she's shady, but she's not that shady, is Jackie Brown. She's a flight attendant who's down on her luck and subsequently has made the choices that she's had to make a living. She can't work for the big airlines. And so she likes the job, she likes the travel, so she stays with an airline that she can work with. And then also, does these side jobs, bringing shit in for Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, but that's where I would go to say though.
And also, De Niro's fucking amazing in that movie.
He is. Great too, and even Sam Jackson got all here in my Raptor bag. Great.
Yeah. 'Cause he's a Raptor fan. We talked about
yes,
this.
we did. Last week. Yeah. But that's all great. But those are all characters that he didn't even create. He just kind of dealt with and built on his own. Or so like he didn't create them. Like those were there. He had to deal with the limitations of those characters. You know what I mean?
You can say the same thing about The Bride.
Yes,
and he also didn't fucking create.
He created with Uma
Pai
Thurman.
Mei.
True.
He didn't create The Bride. He didn't create Pai Mei. He didn't create you can say
Hansel. He actually
Yeah.
didn't create that character.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Yeah.
True.
One
Okay,
could
fair
argue
enough.
that he didn't create the Adolf Hitler character in Inglourious Bastards. I don't know that.
Yeah. True.
But no, Jackie
So
Brown.
that guy's based on a real person.
I think some sort of counselor.
Nobody would have that mustache.
But Jackie Brown was originally.
Yeah, I thought he was just like an evil Charlie Chaplin.
The novel Rum Punch. It's all white characters doing white people things, so he did change it to be more of a movie for black audiences.
Yeah.
So.
And the other thing that I wanted to touch on that you said, Devon, is the execution is different in Kill Bill. Before I get to Danny, I'm sorry, Danny. One thing that I like, for example, if you look at the vignette that he does in Four Rooms, right? And it's him and they're in the room and Willis is in on that scene too, right? And Tim Roth is obviously the bellhop in that film. And there's that whole sequence about cutting off the pinky finger, and the money and blah, blah, blah. And just that long fucking discussion. It's just getting tenser and tenser and tenser in this really, it's no different than just us sitting around talking, but somehow in the way that Tarantino writes and delivers, he builds these long tense sequences out, and then it's just like these two quick cuts, whoop, 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 cuts the finger, and he's out of the room with the money, and I see that in every single one of his films, but I can't, maybe I'm wrong, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I can't remember a moment in Kill Bill where you have that same swell, that same tense, other than those the siren and the eyes locking and things like that, which is a stylized thing more so than a tension building thing.
You didn't feel that tension when she was locked, when she got buried alive?
No, because it cut away. Because it cut away to her training. If it didn't cut away, then it's very possible.
Maybe the encounter right beforehand when Michael Madsen's waiting for her with a gun that fires rock salt or something.
Yeah,
What is
rock
it?
salt. Yeah.
Maybe there.
Uh-huh. Yeah, but it seems anomalous in that situation. Like I don't get the dialogue that I get, or I don't get the purposeful dialogue that I get in some of his other films. I feel like.
The conversation at the very, very end.
Yeah, that's
with
probably
Bill,
in
that's
two.
probably the
Yeah,
moment,
with
right?
Carradine. Yeah, that's a good point. And that again, I stand corrected. Look, he's defending you.
Are you guys talking about the scene where she kills him?
Yeah,
Yeah,
That's it. That's the one
absolutely,
example in
yeah.
those two fucking movies.
But they were also supposed to be just one movie.
Okay.
In defense.
Okay, so that's in that one fucking long movie.
Yeah, 4 hours.
Yeah,
really.
that's that one.
I'd still
That's the one example that Devon can pull out on me. Danny,
Least favorite?
least favorite and why?
The newest, Django Unchained,
Yeah.
because I didn't know that Sally Menke, I don't know how to pronounce it, his longtime editor was dead before she edited that film. Apparently she went to walk her dog and just died of heat exposure.
Oh, wow.
But
Insane.
when I saw the movie, I was like, there's something wrong with this movie. And I
Yeah.
don't know what it is. And I saw it again in the theater, and again, it didn't hit me as hard as the other ones. And I watched it 2 more times, and still, I don't like it as much as the others. And it has to be the editing. It doesn't flow anywhere near as good. And I was one of those people who loved Inglourious Bastards. I thought it was his best movie in 10 years, easily.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Particularly the first scene in the French farmer's that interrogation scene,
yeah.
which is the best
Yeah.
standalone scene in a movie since that True Romance scene with Christopher Walken and Dennis Hopper, I think.
That's
And
a-
Tarantino
that's a
said
really good point.
Yeah,
he
that's
was trying to outdo
that's
that.
a bold statement. Yeah,
And then
I like
he
that.
said he felt his whole career he was trying to outdo that Christopher Walken, Dennis Hopper scene, and he finally did it with that Christoph Waltz interrogation scene.
Yeah.
But there's nothing like that in Django. And I didn't think the villain was particularly frightening. Calvin
Yeah.
Candy, is it?
But I did like DiCaprio in that role.
Yeah.
I did.
I think the only
I think the acting was good. I think where
Yeah.
it suffers is in the editing room.
Yeah.
I think some more of that stuff should have ended up on the cutting room floor.
Like
I think
the
you're
emotional,
absolutely right.
one more thing. The emotional height of the movie for me is when he says, "I like the way you die, boy," and then he's running across a field, and that amazing song is playing, and it's just
Yeah.
so great. But there's 2 more hours after that,
Yeah.
so it's already crested for me.
I would agree with you on that one. I found that the for sure that watching Django, you knew that you were like, you're onto something on what you want to do with a Western, which is why, for Hateful Eight, I'm just being like, this is going to be more or less really what he wants to do with his style of Western.
Right.
Yeah.
He didn't get his goal that he wanted to get across on that $100 million movie.
Yeah, I do like the idea of a stagecoach traveling across, and then almost this throwback to when I see the trailers, I almost feel like have you seen that episode of Twilight Zone where there's the 5 people that are snowed in at it's like a bus station, the restaurant or whatever, and
I think he even said he like watched that.
Oh, you're kidding!
Episode. No, I swear to God,
that's amazing.
Wait, what show is this?
The Twilight Zone episode where it's like 5 people get off the bus and there's a 6th person in there and they're trying to figure out which one it is, and they allude to the fact that it's an alien. And then of course you figure it out right at the end, and it's so fucking good. Yeah. And like that's what it reminds me of. So I got really excited because I love the Twilight Zone.
That's what with Hateful Eight, it's similar sort of area. All these people, it's the winter, all go into this one cabin.
Yeah.
And somebody is a real fucking scumbag.
Yeah.
Out of a room of scumbags.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know he did mention that Twilight Zone episode.
Oh, that's cool. That's so cool. That's like a whole nother level for me then. Yeah. I'm even more excited now than I was because I just saw the similarity, but now I'm
pretty sure it's on IMDb. That's where I read it last night even.
Oh, you're kidding. See, I should have done some fucking research.
I'm a bit torn after you say that too, because I really do think, the one thing that I will say of it is again, like just real people in these sort of surreal, so extremely bad situations that it does keep consistent with a lot of the rest of the pieces that you've done, but it is a very it doesn't follow any kind of or I guess it does, but it doesn't feel like a real standard storytelling arc, even if we're gonna do it non-linear, even if we're gonna mix up the time. It's just the pacing of the movie is so.
We're talking about Django.
Django. Sorry. Yeah.
You know what it's like. The pacing of that movie of Django, I found is very much like that had more pacing to an old school kung fu movie. Mm-hmm. Really, like especially like 36 Chambers versus the pacing of what Kill Bill was, which was really like that was a Western that kind of really brought in like samurai ideology, whereas Django is a samurai movie, which has brought in a lot of Western stuff. You know what I mean? Because of all the different villains that kind of come in and out and how the story moves. Yeah. It's like an old school classic kung fu movie where it's about a person, it's about the main character's movement as opposed to like just a character, go get them, boom, done, end scene.
It's funny how those genres do overlap and borrow from one another so much too, and how he has like picked up on that.
He loves them both
a
lot, and that they're in pretty much all of his movies are references of all of that.
Okay, I'll do my favorite real quick, or my least favorite rather, real quick. I have the same problems with Django that you do, but because you already said it, I'm gonna go to my next least favorite. Which is Death Proof. As much as I love the second half of that film, and as much as I understand everything that's going on in it, because I'm a proponent of grindhouse films. You guys all know that I've spent a lot of my life at the fucking drive-in, and I understand what's going on in that film. I understand why it is the way it is, but I can't get over the fact that in our world today, it's very hard to, like, say, for example, especially now that it's out on, DVD and Blu-ray, to take that film and pop it in and enjoy it. It's pretty much you watch the scene with Rose McGowan and Kurt Russell at the beginning, and then you go and, do some other shit, and then you come back for the car chase sequence.
That's such pretty a good point.
Yeah, like,
because it's not just the lap dance or the talking at the bar. It's that Italian Vogue 4 minutes that takes up like. I don't care about that magazine.
Yeah. And
I can't possibly care about that magazine.
I think he was going through a stage where, of course, he's trying to balance the kind of, low budget grindhouse film concept that him and Rodriguez were going for. But at the same time, I think at that point in his career, like you were talking about, him coming back with Inglourious Bastards, he was a little bit too in love with with his dialogue and a little bit too in love with the exposition part of his dialogue as well. Just some fucking asshole explaining something that later is going to be important.
I think he also was a
there's a handful of moments in that movie where it almost feels like Tarantino walks in front of the screen or like pushes a character in front of the screen. They go, wait. Okay, here's what's gonna happen. Mm-hmm. And that's not him. That's not why I love him.
I don't think
platonically.
I don't think he can work. Like I think when he and him and Rodriguez were doing Grindhouse, he was very limited because you can't do anything more than really an hour and 25 minutes, right? All of his movies, as we know and love, are like 2 hours to 2.5 hour. Like you're in that.
But still, that fucking movie that he made could have been 35 minutes. Yeah. Like in all seriousness.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I think with him, it's either like. But that's exactly it, though. I think with him, it's either a
it could have been an HBO special.
It's going to be a really good tight half 45.
Yeah.
Or it's going to be a really fucking awesome, 2 to 2.5 hour film. Where you give him like restraints where it's like, okay, well you gotta do this. He's so because when you watch his movies, there's all these different ideas going through his head at one time. To break all those ideas, to even just make him like remotely interested into an hour and a half, and even then you're gonna, lost reel bullshit me like that.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
The one final point I'd like to make about Grindhouse, those two films, these are the two most fucking expensive Grindhouse quote unquote films ever made. $53 million for the pair of them. The budget.
Wow.
It's like I would have liked to have seen him make that fucking movie with a bunch of nobodies and do it legit. And not that I don't love seeing Kurt Russell in it, that I don't love seeing like Rose McGowan or Rosario Dawson or but I much rather would have seen him do a legitimate like $1 million Grindhouse film, which I realized like that couldn't pay for fucking catering nowadays. Yeah. But that's why like I'd love to see that done.
It would have been great too if. Like, not to take away from any of the actresses in the movie, but for Grindhouse, if it just said Kurt Russell.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's a fucking Grindhouse movie.
Yeah.
That's like just Kurt Russell doing some shit. That's all I'm really paying for, let's be honest, in Grindhouse. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't know.
That's all I really want.
It's his most girl power movie,
yeah.
Particularly with the ending.
But that would have been even better if it was just Kurt Russell.
Yeah, even then, like, granted, all the girls still kicking Kurt Russell's ass.
Everything the same way.
Totally
same fucking movie.
It.
But yeah, just go back completely. If you're going to revisit these genres, you don't have to, like, do everything the same way.
Yeah.
Budget super low, one fucking star that you apparently put out all the money for.
Yeah,
you made the actual movie for $50.
Yeah, like you're Charles Bronson. Just bring him in. Yeah. Kill some shit, take him out.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't hold it against that movie. I can't hold a lot of this stuff against that movie just because of the singular purpose that it was made for and served.
The car chase.
It really. That's like it's so practical in an era where that's just not done. I mean, there is some visual effects done. Post, obviously, but a lot of it was still done with just like
2 cars.
And just like some like really banging up these cars, really letting it.
And I love the idea of the car that's death proof.
Yeah,
like the lore of that.
But you really need to be
sexy.
sitting on my side, right?
Yeah.
But like he's been making genre films his whole career, right?
Yeah.
So to make a genre film that is already another genre film, but like he's stressing the format that it's being presented in is just a little too bizarre.
Yeah.
And it did affect the movie in a pretty negative way, particularly that middle section at the restaurant.
Yeah. But that being said, even with my thought process of Django and Death Proof being his worst, I'd still put them way higher than I would a lot of filmmakers.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. His worst movie is still better than most people's best movie. Like Farrelly Brothers or something.
Because you don't get car chases.
Farley Brothers. I don't concur with that statement. They've had some good ones.
All right.
Well, but in any case, any final thoughts before we go to break? Because we're going to come back and we're going to nominate our film for essentially like the one that should be like if you're going to show one Tarantino to your friends, your family, whatever it is, this is the one that you do it with. We're each going to nominate one and why, and tell you why. Any final thoughts before we do that, though?
Yeah, I really like The Ringer.
The Ringer?
Yeah, it was a Farrelly Brothers movie.
Yeah.
Just a touch back on that.
Okay, so I guess no. So we'll be right, or we'll come back in a minute and do our thing with our nominations for the film of Tarantino's to kind of live on.
Yeah.
All right, so we're back, and we're going to go around the table. We're going to kind of nominate the film that is the perfect conduit to introduce to a new potential Tarantino fan. And we kind of decided off air, and Devon's going to kick things off.
Because I have the easiest job of everybody. Pulp Fiction is just such a great introduction to all of the different little stylistic nuances of Tarantino. I feel like from the way the dialogue is written, all of these characters are so so interesting. So you're so drawn into everything that these people are saying. Like everything comes out right. Like when they first come in to the room with the group of guys who have the case, it's just such a tense scene, and everything that they're saying is so like so rehearsed because you find out that it is like he totally like memorized this this biblical verse. And
he memorizes the Bible passage, but not that exchange between.
Like
you know what this is? These burgers are called in France, and then he asked Vincent to say it for him. Royale with cheese. Languidly coming from
like it's got a real feel of just like the way that you hang out with your friends and things come up. Like something comes up in conversation and then it comes back up later. Like it gets re-referenced, like the Royale with cheese thing. Like
I could go for a Royale with cheese about now.
And
fucking starving.
And just the way the story jumps around. You get to see so many angles of like the same situation, so many of the things that are happening at the same time, so much of the reason why, so much of the action of the movie is really taking place, but you get it revealed to you in such an odd, interesting order.
Mm-hmm.
It keeps you so interested. You want to find out all of these little details, and even the things that don't get much screen time, you're still so interested in, like Tim Roth and what's her name holding up the restaurant, and how that comes back in later in the movie.
Great final sequence.
Yeah.
But by the time it comes along, you've completely forgotten it ever happened.
Yeah.
You're so swept up in the rest of the action. Because it starts in that restaurant, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And it's interesting that Vincent Vega is also the commonality between the three vignettes. Because he's obviously he's there to see Jules' transformation. He's there to get fucking killed when the Pop-Tarts come up. When Bruce Willis then turns around and makes the right choice by saving Marcellus Wallace, and then he gets to live, and he's obviously also there for his kind of his main arc in the story, which is the exchanges that he has with Uma Thurman and that whole and brilliant part of the film.
There's this perfect justice to it all that like it's like punishment is doled out specifically to those that deserve it, except for the guy that gets shot in the car. That's the only kind of exception. But just like Vincent Vega, his life is off the rails, and he's not trying to fix it. He's not trying to get better. He's not even really cognizant of how bad the things he's doing are. So he gets it. Bruce Willis is so principled. He's in such an awful situation.
Yeah.
But he's doing everything for the right reasons, and so he gets to live. Marcellus Wallace is merciful to him given the situation they've both gotten into.
Yeah.
And so he gets to live. Samuel L. Jackson reforms. He gets to live. Like it's like
and also he grants another person a second opportunity in Tim Roth, like Honey Bunny and what's the guy's name?
I think he calls him Ringo.
Ringo, yeah, Ringo and Honey Bunny. But yeah, just that whole he gives someone else a second chance, and in that, thus grants himself one kind of by proxy.
Yeah, like it's a very very like karmically balanced movie. I don't know. I really like that.
I agree.
Well, Bruce Willis did lose his LA privileges, though. He did. So he lost some.
I know someone who hates that line because he says, "You leave town tomorrow, tonight." I'm pretty sure you've lost your LA privileges or something like that.
Yeah.
There's you leave town tonight or today. He contradicts himself but then again, he's had a bad afternoon. Marcellus.
Yeah, he's just had some not nice things happen to his
So when he says he's going to call
rectal
up
cavity.
some people to go to work on the homestead with a blowtorch, who's he calling? He can't call Travolta because Vincent Vega's dead at Bruce Willis' apartment.
but you're telling me
But
he
he
doesn't
doesn't
have
know
any
that
heavy
yet.
cats?
Can he call Jules though? Is Jules still in the
No,
fold? Or
Jules is out of the fold.
You know,
'Cause he's-
after,
Yeah,
right?
it's after.
You know who he could call?
Ghostbusters?
The Wolf.
Oh. Yeah.
Yes.
The Wolf would take care of him
but
perfectly.
I'm assuming that he has a much larger outfit, because Vega's been in Europe, and Jules is obviously on the outs now. He's doing kind of random odd jobs for him, right? So,
but you've got your your toughs and
He alludes
your
to who
workers,
he's getting.
right? Like the guys that we've seen and had any kind of experience with are the guys that he calls to get something specific done.
Yeah.
Whereas you've got to have some
general
just
contractors.
go beat this guy.
He's not going to
up.
call
Just
Paul the
beat hell
bartender,
out of him.
Yeah.
who has one of my favorite lines in the entire movie, which is, "My name's Paul, and this is between y'all." And that's how he leaves the conversation.
The comedy in this movie, like given all of like the dark subject matter, it's still like it's kept so light by all of these just like perfectly placed moments, like when they get their suits covered in blood and then they've got to change into these ridiculous outfits like these shorts and t-shirts, and I think the Wolf comes in and is just like makes some comment about it, like
You look like a couple of dorks.
Yeah.
he
No,
says something
Tarantino makes
specific.
the line.
Yeah.
You look like a couple of, and then Tarantino goes, dorks.
Right, and
Yeah.
even just when they're cleaning themselves in the bathroom and Vincent makes the washcloth
The
look
towel,
like a maxi pad.
yeah.
I think, Brandon, you pointed this out to me. That segment or that vignette's called the Bonnie situation, right?
Yeah, the Bonnie situation.
And they say the word situation a lot.
Yeah.
Marcellus says
they
it.
they refer to it as the Bonnie situation.
Right. Samuel L. Jackson said, it's stuff like this is going to bring this situation to a head.
yeah.
Like, well, of course, that's a tense situation. Yeah, everybody says that word, I think.
Yeah.
At least once.
I think like one of my favorite little like comedic just like perfectly timed moments is when Samuel L. Jackson gets his wallet back at the very end.
Yeah.
And it's just like it's just so.
Which one is it?
It's the one that says "bad motherfucker" on it. Like Tarantino just saw this wallet somewhere and was like, "We need one of these."
Yeah.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
he's got to have a wallet that says "bad motherfucker" on
Yeah.
it. Like,
he saw a
this
wallet
is
that said something, and he's like, "We got to do this."
and it's and that's it's the same. Like it's almost it's that little bit of Tarantino in Jules that he's walking by his stand and sees like bad motherfucker wallet. I'll take one of those. I'm a bad motherfucker.
He also has a Jesus selling drugs, who also brings a person back to life.
Yeah.
Well, there's a black medical book.
I completely forgot about that guy. Yeah.
The other
The dealer.
the other commonality between yours and the one that I want to pick out is both the director and producer make appearances. I believe Lawrence Bender also makes an appearance in Pulp Fiction, correct? I can't think of what the hell it is off the top of my head, but I'm almost positive. And that team is, it's another, again, it's one of those things like Kevin Smith and Scott Mosier, like that. There's just some kind of synergy. Like when they worked together, it was beautiful, and they did what they did to the best that they could do it. And it's the same thing when you see, these two working together. It's like as soon as you see one of them go off, like Lawrence Bender, I think he did a couple acting roles, right? Like he's one of the cops in Reservoir Dogs, which I'm nominating and we'll do so in a moment. But yeah, it's so interesting, and we didn't even talk about him, but just the way that Tarantino visualizes these things, and Bender's like, okay, well, we got to get it done, and makes it happen for him, and there's something really, really fucking cool about that. And, it's great to have someone like that on your side, whether, again, like we're musicians, to know that you have people that you can go to and bring a crazy idea and they're going to bring it back to reality or what have you. It's so good, keeps your head on your shoulders. May I?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I'm up next, and as I already said, I'm nominating Reservoir Dogs. And the reason I'm doing this is it's not necessarily my favorite, but I think it holds true to today that it is, if not his most important work, one of his most important works. I hate the term outside of the box thinking, but this fucker comes out of the gate with a film that's a heist movie that doesn't show the goddamn heist.
Right.
He set the stage for a common practice of playing with the chronology as a tool for tension. Not that it hadn't been done before, but there's no doubt that a lot of the films that followed thereafter were borrowing from his works. The other interesting thing about this movie is much like you were saying with Pulp Fiction, there is a karmic balance that happens with this film. And basically it's everyone that goes, not just everyone that goes off the tracks, but that everyone with a motive, everyone involved in this heist, whether you're a cop, whether you're, a criminal, you're all gonna fucking die. And some of these guys were on their way out and they just wanted to do one last job. Some of these guys are trying to, bring down a mob boss. Some of these guys are just, good soldiers to this mob boss. Chris Penn is amazing in this film.
Oh yeah, it's one of the
he
best
is
casting decisions
all
of his
time.
filmography.
Yeah.
It says one of my favorite lines in the movie.
Yeah.
What? This cop shoots the cop.
Yeah.
No, it was but that doesn't necessarily make it fucking so.
Yeah. And the whole thing with the exchange in the car, and I can't think of the girl's name that he's talking about from the club that goes off and like kills her boyfriend, like takes a beating from him, and then like that's really cool. But it's the beginning of the style that you saw with Tarantino. Obviously, people have copied that slow motion walk, the black suits and sunglasses,
The smart talking gangsters.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything Guy Ritchie has done, basically.
Yeah. And it's a trendsetter in so many ways. The music, the idea of a sub-contextual narrative in the form of a radio DJ, the reveals and how they're delegated out in the timeline, like in a less capable filmmaker's hands, or more so, I guess at that point, a less capable writer's hands. The reveal, I'm a cop, that would have been the end, not the fucking middle. But this guy delivers you that in the middle and manages to keep that movie riveting for another half hour, you know, or more.
By showing you his training as a cop.
Yeah.
Not the actual line, I'm a cop. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know, he shows the emotional connection between two people that are thrust into a situation together that have no commonality. They don't know each other's names. They don't know anything. Much in the way that, for example, if you come on a panel here and you're talking to someone that you've never met before, you know, which I know doesn't happen very often, but, you know, for example, you were on a panel for the Back to the Future with Brent. You had never met Brent before, and you get thrust into the situation. We have some laughs and we have a good time. And you're making the best of a bad situation. There's that emotional pull in the film. There's Keitel in a role that I don't think he had been that good since maybe Taxi Driver, in all seriousness.
Yeah, maybe.
There's, you know, like I already said, Chris Penn is fucking amazing, and he's, you know, him not being around is a huge loss. Tim Roth in one of his best performances.
Although that's my one problem with the entire movie. I think it's a
his
perfect
accent?
movie. Yeah, his American accent is flawed. It is. It just is.
Yeah, but
certain vowels he's off, and I'm sure
Yeah.
given a couple years he wouldn't have done that.
Which I do like. I do like when he's yelling or losing it. And the accent goes. It gives a human element, and it's almost like a breakup. The same way as, again, when we get excited in here, and all of a sudden you get a where there should be a st or something like that. Tarantino again is able to, you know, and his team is able to work with it and edit it and make it really clean. The tempo is breakneck, more so than a lot of his films that depend on those slow builds while still delivering that kind of dialogue that gets more and more and more and more tense. You know, you have an emotional connection to these characters that have minimal screen time. Which is so important. Like literally, the only time that you ever see Mr. Brown alive, which I realize is Tarantino, but it is the scene where he's the getaway driver. You know, is the scene in the restaurant where he's talking about, you know, Madonna, and Like a Virgin, and you still feel the effects when he smashes into the or crashes the car and he's all fucked up and they have to take off. You know, and also the way that he plays out the I'm a Cop sequence, where there's the whole emotional change when you go back to it, because that's right where, when he gets shot, Tim Roth gets shot, that's where you get the flashback, I'm a cop. So when you come back to that moment, it's even heavier, because not only has this woman defended herself and he pulled a gun on her, this cop pulls a gun on her, now you know he's a cop and he's been shot. So, you know, for momentarily to keep his cover, he strayed from the path, and subsequently he's paid the price, you know, because and shit's gone awry. Obviously, the legendary sequence with Michael Madsen doesn't have to be stated. It's just, there's so many things in that film that you can latch onto, no matter what kind of audience or, you know, audience member you are, whether you're a passive one, whether you're enthralled in the plot, whether you're fixated on someone like a Keitel, who's an absolutely lovable character in the film. You know, there's so many things, and then when you find out that, one, this film was made for just over $1 million, and two, so it grossed 22 times the amount that it fucking was made for, and you know, and it's his first first go around as a director. It's startling, because it's like we said in the last segment, there's directors who will never make a movie with such a simple concept that is half as fucking good. Yeah. You know, he doesn't get lost in bullshit exposition. He doesn't get lost in treating the audiences that he has to carry them along. Instead, he does the exact opposite, and just has characters fucking ramble, and he has the pace go at an unbelievable rate. You know, and he captures some of the best performances in these actors' careers, and he does that again and again. And I realize you can say that part of him about every film, but much in the way of a Spielberg or a Paul Thomas Anderson or some of these guys who are very, very much elevating actors' performances in a lot of cases. He's one of the best ever at it, and this is the first go around for him at doing that. When you can bring back a Keitel, you know, to his his peak like that when you can, you know.
It was the first of his reclamation projects, right? Cattell in Reservoir Dogs, Travolta in Pulp Fiction, Robert Forster, Jackie Brown, but also Chris Penn.
Yeah, exactly. And it you know, just everything about this film, is the one that you have to show to people first. I'm sorry, it is. It's like showing the first Star Wars first, or the you know, the '89 Batman. You know, that's it. You know, that's the one.
I can't think of a single movie beforehand. You said like the whole Guy Ritchie thing of these smart talking gangsters, but I think it's almost more even just like regular talking gangsters. Like I can't.
Yeah, just shooting the shit. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't think of an example before Reservoir Dogs of a movie where like the gangster or whatever was having a conversation that sort of jumped between these crimes they commit and just these such basic
regular
like,
human life,
yeah,
like tipping.
They're talking about tipping. Like what? Like
Yeah.
When have you ever seen that before? I mean, it's always either these talking about their plans, their plots, and stuff like that, or they're talking about their like life of excess or something like that. Like there's never been like such a mundane conversation between such like sort of extreme
Toby
people.
Wong, fucking Charlie Chan, or whatever the line. You know, I got fucking dicks on this side, you know, and I got fucking Toby Wong over here.
And then he says something. He goes, "Hardy fucking heart."
Yeah, and the whole exchange with the tips, like the movie is ingrained into our culture.
One of the things about that tip that I've read, and some people picked up on, and it might be overreading, it might be bullshit, but Steve Buscemi's character, Mr. Pink, right? He's complaining about tips. Now society deems some jobs tip worthy and others not. And you just get the impression that he's kind of cheap.
Yeah.
Then when he's being chased and he gets the car, he's extremely liberal with his bullets.
Yeah.
Like he just keeps shooting.
Yeah.
He won't stop. It's one of the most thrilling parts of the movie because the camera's moving up and the bullet. It's a very loud gun. Mm-hmm. In contrast to those 80s guns that kind of go, you know.
Yeah, I wonder about that shot. Is that because it's not definitely not a fucking crane shot. Is that like a dolly shot, or is it someone with a steady cam?
A rolling rack or something.
Yeah, like probably like a dolly, or like I don't think it's a tracking shot.
It might have been classic Steadicam.
Yeah, it might have been Steadicam.
Because there are a few guys like.
I know the running is for sure.
Like that scene in Goodfellas when they're going down into the steps and stuff like that. That was classic Steadicam where it's a guy holding.
Yeah.
So it could have just been that. Knowing the budget that they were on, wouldn't be surprised if it was just
the
a
whole
guy fucking going with them and hoping to God.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, in any case, now that I've dominated the conversation for the last like 10, 15 minutes, let's take a little break and then we're going to come back and get East and Danny's nominations for new viewers to Tarantino, their introduction to his masterful work. I just want to remind everyone to visit our website, moviesruinmylife.com. And we're just getting started with all of this, so send us your ideas. What do you want to hear on the show? What do you want to see on our site? Get in touch with us. Tell us what you think. Tell us off. Whatever. moviesruinmylife.com, that's where you're going to find us. All right, and we're back. And East, what's your nomination, my friend?
All right, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna say Kill Bill, Volume 1.
And we are allowing. We're gonna allow both of them if you want, because we kind of got into it a little bit about this. I think are we all in consensus? Because we kind of talked about it that we should allow them both.
Yeah, I mean it's.
I think you're right.
Together, yeah.
It's well, regardless.
You're still going with one?
Well, I'll do both. It doesn't matter because
it's a collective work.
Because the point is, even with 1 and 2 or the Kill Bill, whatever else, the reason why I would give that to somebody to kick it off is because that was the beginning of where he was going with his career, and it capped off where he started his career. And what I mean by that is, you have before Kill Bill, which is number 4 in his series, you have Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, Jackie Brown. And where he went with his filmmaking after Kill Bill is, he did Kill Bill, which is like a kung fu western. Then he did a war movie, which is another homage.
Death Proof first.
Sorry, Death Proof, which is another. It's still like a hats off to Grindhouse films. Then he did hats off to war movies, and then he did another hats off to westerns again. And it was the beginning of that trend of I'm going to tackle classic kind of filmmaking with like a modern touch, especially his touch. Given that. it's also his first movie where he really pushes color and color balances, and you can see that in everything from the harsh blue of her jumpsuit to the harsh view like of the wagon that she drives. You know, the pussy wagon, as we'll call it.
Harsh blue?
Sorry, harsh yellow.
Okay.
Of the patio of the pussy wagon. They're very hard.
Well, but I mean her suit. When did she get the blue suit?
The yellow suit. I meant yellow.
Oh, okay.
Replace blue with yellow. Okay. Yeah. You know what I mean? These are very hard colors. In that battle scene when when she's taking everyone out, which is the first time he's ever really done a high octane action scene in his career, which he begins to do in, he does another hardcore shootout in Django, and there's a bunch of fucking hardcore killings that happen in Inglourious Bastards.
God,
This is his
88 scene is just...
Yeah, this is the first time where you really get to see a dramatic crime actor do an action scene better than any action director, even to fucking date, And it's, people are getting chopped off, they're losing limbs, there's that wicked silhouette scene. It's a live action anime with how this color scene is laid out. And why I would present that to somebody is not only are you getting the taste of the classic Quentin Tarantino dialogue and the monologues and everything that encompasses all these characters, you're getting the hats off to where, like, all the classic cinema that he loved, which he put in all those previous movies, as well as it is the movie that, was the tentpole of where he went with his career later on. And that's the thing with Kill Bill. You know what I mean? Not to mention as well, you have Sonny Chiba, who, if you guys out there don't know, is the fucking kung fu master who plays Hanzo, the guy that builds, all these swords.
Yeah.
Who's actually...
Yeah, Hattori Hanzo is... what's the name of the TV show?
I can't remember, but it went 4 seasons, and in different seasons, Sonny Chiba played Hanzo, like, in different descendants.
Yeah.
And that character is supposed to be one of the descendants from that TV show that he just loved.
Yeah.
And that's why I think Kill Bill, I would bring it to somebody, because you're not getting that heavy push of the classic Quentin Tarantino dialogue, but you're still getting that heavy style. And you're still getting that classic pacing. And also, if you're like, well, I didn't like his older stuff, but I do like his new stuff, which, as being Quentin Tarantino fans, is batshit crazy, and I would never want to hang out with that person. But, you can start from Kill Bill number 4 and then go up to number, what are we at now, 8 with Hateful Eight?
I think he's at 9, isn't he?
9. Sorry, 9.
Yeah, this will be number
9 if you count the Kill Bills separately.
Yeah.
Yes, but I do agree that it
is one big film.
Began
so I guess
a new
8,
phase in his career.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's what really...
And the other thing is, too, he did do that one vignette in 4 rooms. So I count that. I would say that this is 9, and he directed half of From Dusk Till Dawn. We talked about that already. And if you count True Romance in there, this fucking guy just never stops working.
Yeah. And, but, like, with Kill Bill as well, fuck, I had a point.
I'm sorry.
It's okay, man. Don't worry about it, man. Fuck.
You ended on this is number 8. So number 4, number 8, carrying forward.
Yeah, got that, man. Does anybody want to throw in and question me on some of this shit? Because I fucking really studied it.
Well, I am curious on the, one thing that this film does kind of in a long form way is very much similar to what Devon talked about with Jules in Pulp Fiction, which is this kind of long version of the character redemption. She's and even in that, she's still doing wrong all the way through the film.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, she's kind of righting wrongs at the same point, like righting injustices. But to me, like, for example, I'm a huge lover of The Crow. We've talked about this before. I knew from the opening of that film. Now, mind you, of course, I had the comics at my disposal with that, but still, I knew in the opening of that film that, of course, Eric he can't continue on. Now I know their original intention was to do that until Brandon Lee passed away, but the ending the way it is right. And it's the same way with Terminator 2, where he has to die, and of course now if you kill the bride, then you don't have someone to take care of the child, obviously, like BB, but I don't know. I feel like as much as she is doing right by all these people that have subsequently wronged her and wronged other people, she gets off somewhat scot-free. You know, it's implied that perhaps someone could come back and kill her later, which almost I'd like to see. Just to conclude that series.
That's what's also really great about Kill Bill, is that this is the first time Tarantino, and pretty much the only time in his career where he actually tackled the topic of honor.
Yeah,
and that's really what that movie is.
You know, I think he did tackle the subject matter of honor in all of these films because he used these despicable characters, and the ones that survive are the ones that take the righteous path.
Bruce Willis in Pulp Fiction, I think.
Yeah, Bruce,
honorable character.
Jules. Yeah. No one makes it out of Reservoir Dogs. You know,
and I think that,
Jackie makes it out in in the end.
To go on with like the Kill Bill though, like they very well could make it a sequel because she kills Vivica A. Fox.
If they resolve
in front
it,
of the
then
daughter.
I have no problem with with those movies anymore. But that is my one thing. The one thing that just fucking bothers me. Like I lose sleep over it. If I watch those movies and I try and go to bed, it's like, fuck, man. Like that's the one time that Tarantino has left things morally gray at the conclusion of a film. And I'm sorry, I'm totally deflating your argument, but strengthening mine, so fuck you.
Yeah. Fuck.
I think it's like
that's all when you end it with a fuck you can't say shit.
It's also one of the first examples of a movie that really does follow up one person's kind of like you're seeing this movie
it's traditional
the whole way through with and kind of as Uma Thurman, whereas I mean, if you look at the movies that came before that, Reservoir Dogs could be alternately Harvey Keitel or Roth, and even really Madsen a little bit because it does that little backstory that doesn't involve one another separately, right?
Yeah.
Right, we see Madsen and Chris Penn fighting in the office.
There's no clear male lead.
Yeah, which is Pulp Fiction again, like so
definite vignettes. Yeah,
really difficult to say whether the movie is about like Jules or Vince Vega or Marcellus Wallace, maybe
Bruce Willis as well.
Which is why if you were going to introduce somebody to the world of Quentin Tarantino, it might be easy on Kill Bill because it's a one central.
Yeah, except for that, again, you're introducing them to him on a film that basically takes these despicable characters and leaves one alive. So it gives you, because you haven't got the context of all of his films before that are morally strong leading up to that point. That's the first film, like I said, that leaves a moral gray. And it fucking bothers me because it doesn't bother me as a film. I love the films, but it bothers me as an introductory piece because you don't get the context of morality in this universe or even in this film universe within their world. It's the one standout for me. Like Hitler fucking dies in Inglourious Bastards, and all the guys and like most of the bastards die. Even Fassbender fucking dies, and that guy's charming as shit. Like
Chris Waltz. I mean, he died, or
no,
he
lives, but
die.
He's got to live out his life as a fucking Nazi.
So it's debate. I mean,
no, that guy's got a worse
alive,
fate in a lot of ways because he's got to live through his life with this fucking scar. Because at that time in that era, you wouldn't have that technology to do a skin graft. Yeah. But I just feel as though there's that, like, all of those people that she's killed are still out there, like, or they're not out there, they're in the ground, or whatever, but their families and people have been affected by her just flying around the world killing people and shit because she was in love.
It wasn't because she was in love.
Yeah, she was in love with Bill, and that's what got her. Like, I know she already knew martial arts, and she was already going down the wrong.
They took her.
Path.
She took all of them out because they fucking brutally killed her and all of her family.
Yeah,
and
but how she got into being an assassin was because of her relationship with Bill. She was falling for Bill, and you see those scenes in the second one, the warm scenes and all of that thing. It's just, that's my one problem. I need to hear why it's okay, because for me, all of those people, if you show that film first, all of those people would say, he's morally wrong, he's obscene, he's this, he's that, without the context of the films that precede it. They're fucking right. With that movie, they're right. But with any of his other films, it's the righteous path, or at least the right decision at the right time, taking the right exit off that highway is going to keep you alive. And that means something to me because it validates all of this grotesque and horrific, and also the ridiculous characters that are just sinister in nature but are also lovable. It makes all of these things okay. Where in that world, because the bride survives, like that's why they almost have to make 3 or a short, like maybe a comic or something like they did with Django or something, where she can fucking die because she has to. She has to die.
For sure.
If the Terminator has to fucking die and I have to cry my fucking 8-year-old eyes out, then this chick has to die. Like, I love the bride, but she's got to go, man.
I don't disagree with that. This is also the hard thing when somebody else already picks fucking Pulp Fiction. In conclusion, I was schooled. Danny?
I'm so sorry.
No, but I think it is an example of Tarantino doing a movie that is, however unconventional it is, it's
keep in
more
mind
conventional in the ways
it's a beautiful film.
And also keep in mind if I'm introducing someone to Quentin Tarantino, they don't fucking know shit about whatever the fuck we're talking about because they don't know movies.
But they're gonna see that and they're gonna see.
They're not gonna.
They're gonna see violence.
They may not notice.
They may not notice, but the thing is, if they then are like, well, I really like Tarantino, and then they read up on him and they read, like a lot of harsh critics out there saying all these fucking things because when you get into Tarantino, you sink your teeth and you go full force into it, and it's the only thing is that there's no redemption for those that she's wronged, in that universe.
Very true, but it's also
but it's okay if you've seen all of his other films because to a certain extent, like as a standalone piece, it's not okay. If he had just made that one film, then that film is all of the things that these people are saying are wrong with his films. If it's part of his collective work, then it's fucking perfect. I don't know.
Yeah, you don't want to, when you're introducing people as well, I also don't want to blow their wad and be like, here's his best movie, and then like after that everything else is like meh.
Which is why I went with Reservoir Dogs, because I also don't think it's his best movie.
Yeah, which is why with Kill Bill it's like you get a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And like where he went, where he started from, it's a lot of great action, and it's only going to get better from here.
Yeah, no, it's a valid point. It's not a bad movie to come into. It's a fun movie. Absolutely. And it's beautiful, like you said. The colors are vibrant,
and that's what
also
I'm saying.
everything's so tactile.
Yeah, it's like I almost wish Tim Burton pulled a Quentin Tarantino and actually did the fucking movies that he really, really wanted to do. Yeah. Again, instead of just having Johnny Depp bang his like ex-wife all the time. You know what I mean? Mm. He has an awesome use of color from Beetlejuice up until even like that one little short scene in fucking Sweeney Todd.
Yeah, I was just gonna say Sweeney
which is
Todd,
why Big Fish, and Big Eyes are a lot of color. Yeah. Very great, very vibrant. Vibrant. Sorry,
you're getting angry. I'm so sorry. I made you upset.
Some of his best work. And with Quentin Tarantino, he really took advantage of that. The solid blue suit that Django's wearing and Django and Shane. There's the blue suit.
He likes primary colors, which is like the mark of a hero.
Mm-hmm.
In a lot of situations, which is cool. Like Superman, like even Batman in the Black. I know it's a shade, but again, like it's not like you don't see too many superheroes in mauve.
Yeah, or maroon. That'd be wicked, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, Danny.
All right, Danny.
Okay, so I guess just as a segue to the movie that I'm defending, or Jackie Brown, I just wanted to talk about Kill Bill for a second. There's a part in, I think it's Kill Bill 2, where Michael Madsen's character parks really far away from a building, and I never understood why he did that. And then you realize he's an employee there. Yeah. That's employee parking, right? It's always far away, so the patrons can park closer. And it cuts to his boss who was doing cocaine with a stripper, and he says to the stripper, "Come on, baby, be somebody." Which is the saddest thing you could possibly say to someone, right? So then that's where he loses a week's worth of hours because he keeps wearing the stupid hat.
Yeah.
And his boss takes the hours off the calendar and says, "I'll call you." And then he walks out to the front, and one of the waitresses says,
the toilet overflowed and there's shitty water all over the floor. And he's like, well, I guess I'll have to go clean it up. That's really, really depressing. To go from an international assassin to a guy like this living in a trailer. It said he pawned his sword for $250.
But he didn't. It was in the closet.
So he was lying?
Yeah, he was
He
lying.
was lying to Bill?
Because you remember she pulls
Yeah,
out the sword and reads the inscription on it.
Okay,
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
lied. He lied. Sorry.
One thing I do want to say about Kill Bill that I absolutely love and might be an interesting thing to if you were introducing Tarantino into or rather to a blossoming cinephile would be the fact that, like, the recycled characters. And again, like the one kind of hole in your or no, not even. It's perfectly fine. Is the recycling of the sheriff from Dusk Till Dawn, and then he's the pimp in number 2. The music, the vast mix of like Robert Rodriguez, like everything in fucking A minor.
And not to mention, like,
and then like the RZA, which I love the RZA's music, and he like I remember seeing the press for the second one and being like, oh, if I get to work with Robert Rodriguez again, it's like, fuck you, man. Like the RZA's, all of his music is what makes those films. Like all of his work is what makes those films. Absolutely, Rodriguez adds a lot of emotion to it, but just all of the great like throwback stuff, like the 70s vibes, the siren stuff, like all of those moments are like it's like some of the best stuff that the Riz has done since like early Wu-Tang, in all seriousness.
but even then, it's like a lot of that was stuff that Quentin Tarantino just ripped off of shit that he loved. Like that's
he totally just showed it to him, but the RZA gave him exactly what he wanted. Then you're gonna go like, oh yeah, I like working with Robert Rodriguez.
Because you know what the weird, because the two of them were just at opposite.
They're buddies.
Yeah, but they were at opposite areas of the movie theater. Like when the Wu-Tang and RZA would go and like watch old school kung fu movies in the theater.
Yeah.
Quentin Tarantino was like that guy just 2 rows back, just like laughing with them.
Yeah.
So when it came to them like being like, hey RZA, I really want to make this movie. I need this sort of music. He was like,
well,
I got you.
And I'm not saying that like he doesn't love the RZA. Like obviously he produced the Man with the
Iron Fist 1 and 2.
1 and 2, yeah. So it's clear that they have a great working relationship. I always found it odd that I never saw in like any of the press just the love for the RZA stuff in those films that I thought it deserved, because the music in those films is fucking beautiful. And in that regard, like there's so many elements that if you were introducing it to someone who is just falling in love with film and is like addicted to everything that they can get their hands on, then that is an absolutely beautiful piece to introduce them to, because there's so much to offer there.
There's also the end of 1, which is also like the end of Kill Bill 1. If you were just going to show that one, let's just say,
so good, so beautiful, aesthetically, god damn.
Well, that, and just when Bill is just like, did you tell her that her daughter's still alive?
Yeah.
Like that's just like you're straight up sitting there in the theater. You're like, what the fuck? So you imagine showing somebody that like for the first time, you're introducing them to Quentin Tarantino, and it's just like,
and I love how they break the fourth wall with just like, they don't try and not say her name. They just say her name and put a fucking beep there like it's a cuss word. It's like, no, we said it. It's there. But fuck you. You got to wait. It's like breaking a rule of cinema, but they don't care, and it works amazing.
I don't think he really cares. He's like the most punk rock director.
Yeah. He's
the greatest rule breaking in Kill Bill is the dark when she's in the coffin and you can hear all the goings on outside.
Yeah,
that's really claustrophobic.
But it's fucking terrifying.
It is. It's really claustrophobic.
And did you see that in the theater?
Yeah.
Oh god damn! It was so good in the theater, right?
Really.
Oh my god!
Affecting.
Like
it's one of the few times in going to the movies where I actually had to get up and go to because I get claustrophobic.
Yeah.
And I have a thing with heights, so I saw that scene. That's when I was like.
So did you see the walk?
No, I couldn't. I had to close my eyes during the trailer when they did the whole scene when it goes down.
Yeah.
And you see, oh, fuck, I'm real bad.
Wow.
I'm real bad.
Yeah.
But that scene though, when she's in the coffin, messed me right up. I had to leave.
It's tough to do, yeah.
Because then when she breaks it, and then you see all the dirt coming down. That's
yeah. There's a similar situation in Double Jeopardy with Ashley Judd. She gets locked in a coffin. That used to give me nightmares. With a dead body.
Yeah.
Right. She's not alone in that coffin.
That was a great movie though.
Yeah.
Not
great.
a good movie, but
Okay, sorry.
Might be a
The
little bit
good
of an
movie.
overstatement.
The
It's an
Descent.
enjoyable
The
movie.
Descent.
Do you
Yeah,
remember
yeah,
that?
yeah.
Oof. I could not handle that. That's I literally like I stopped breathing myself when they're like
Yeah,
trying
man.
to crawl through these
Films on spelunking? Not for this guy.
No way. No way.
I'm out. Yeah. So let's
Go into Danny Ben's.
Okay,
Absolutely.
so
It's-
yeah, I've picked Jackie Brown, and I wanted to use that segue with Kill Bill, Michael Madsen's character being, he loses about a week of work just to. I mean, Jackie Brown is the movie I would show somebody for the first time, I suppose, but like, it's really an outlier in his catalog, right? It's easily the most muted. It's easily his most somber. I think it's his saddest movie. It's a movie about like the struggles of being an adult. Samuel L. Jackson concurs. He says it's a movie about adults, whereas the guys in Reservoir Dogs are just kind of boys, demented gangster boys. Same with Pulp Fiction. But Jackie Brown features well-rounded adult characters, particularly Max Cherry, who might be Tarantino's most likable protagonist, but he could also be his most boring protagonist. So like, yeah, the colors are muted. The ending should be happy, but it's not. I mean, Max Cherry kisses Jackie. She goes to Spain, but he gets a phone call, so he just stares after her sadly, right? And then he walks into the back room, out of focus.
And the kiss is very sterile.
Yeah, it is. She kisses him first, and then he kisses her back, so it is a mutual thing. But yeah, he walks into the back room, out of focus, like back to his lonely life, and like, why doesn't he go to Spain with her? Why the hell is Melanie with Ordell? It's her house. Maybe because he's a criminal and it thrills her, but like that movie shows you that adults are just as irrational, just as bad at making inexplicable decisions as kids are, and that coming to that realization is an adult realization. That doesn't sound like a whole lot of fun though. So what's fun about Jackie Brown is like the fact that you're watching her. I mean, at the beginning of the movie when she gets busted by the ATF agents, and one of them says to her like, if I was a 44-year-old black woman just hanging on to this shitty job I was lucky enough to have, I don't think I could waste 2 years in a federal pen. And she's just basically like, she asks to light, she goes to light a smoke, and he's like, I don't recall you asking me permission to light a cigarette in my office. She's like, may I smoke? He's like, no, you may not. So she's just getting nothing out of this. So she goes from that kind of position where she can barely maneuver. She can't get any money. She didn't even know the coke was in the bag. To outsmarting literally everybody in the movie. Yeah. Everybody, including Mac. No, not Max. She doesn't use Max, but she does
Max
Ray.
is her accomplice.
Right. He takes 10%.
Who is it that plays the ATF agent again? It's
Michael Keaton,
Yeah,
and the guy that plays
has
the pussy wagon in Kill Bill. He's the other guy.
Yes. Yeah.
I can't think of his name. We could just simply flip this page over and
that
I'll
was
tell you.
That was in a real era of his likability, wasn't it? Like he
Michael
was still
Keaton?
kind of
Is it Michael Bowen?
Yeah. I don't want to lie. But Michael Keaton, yeah, I know it was. He was
like around his
I'm
Batman
pretty sure it's Michael Bowen. That's
romantic
that's that.
comedy.
Well, I think he just did. I actually
right?
think he just did Batman Returns.
Yeah.
And he hadn't gone into the multiplicity My Life stuff yet. This is
Yeah.
like the bridge to that. But he did play the same cop in
Out of Sight.
yes, with J-Lo and Clooney.
He's the only actor to play the same character, fictional character, by two different studios. Because Out of Sight was produced by a different studio, and they
And
weren't
directors,
gonna, where they weren't gonna let him use the Ray Nicolette. I think the name is Ray Nicolette.
Yeah.
So Jackie Brown can still be fun. I mean, it's an effortless movie from the first shot of Pam Grier on that moving sidewalk.
Yeah.
And I mean, the bright yellow font straight out of blaxploitation.
Yeah.
He also does have a lot of in-jokes that I'm not going to presume to speak for like a bunch of black people, but I assume these jokes are for black people. Like Samuel L. Jackson goes into Max Cherry's office, and there's a picture of Max Cherry with his black coworker or his subordinate.
Yeah.
And Samuel L. Jackson's like, I bet it was your idea to take that picture, wasn't it? Right? Or when Jackie offers Max Cherry coffee, and she's like, well, the milk ran out while I was in jail. And he says, black's fine. I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be him expressing a sexual interest in her.
Interesting.
So all these little jokes that you wouldn't get if you were 14 are there for you now as you're getting older.
That is the most tense scene that I can fucking imagine, just of a person getting dressed in a movie ever. Like just trying on clothes.
Oh, the fitting room scene?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
God, like that's so good. It's just, and Jackie Brown, just to be clear, is probably my favorite of his. It's up there for me.
Yeah, when they show you the three perspectives, you start to realize how they did it. Because when the girl who works at that store says cash or credit, and Jackie says cash, she makes a big hand movement, which would have been done by 3 cameras, so they could do the Max Cherry POV, the Robert De Niro POV,
Yep.
and like, oh wait, your change. That's also a loud thing. Like,
Yeah.
because how that would have been really technically difficult.
Yeah.
To put that scene together, right?
Yeah, which has subsequently been somewhat copied and somewhat expanded on with films like, is it Elephant? That does the 2 multiple perspectives of the killers, or like different people on the day of a Columbine type situation where they're following different characters, and they've actually had to reshoot this movie over and over and over again from behind several different people, because if they didn't, you'd literally see the camera, you know. And yeah, Tarantino very much with Jackie Brown kind of started that kind of trend as well, where you in one film see many, not started it, it's been done before, but reinvigorated the practice of doing that. You know, where you see so many different POVs of the same situation, and it never gets old. It's done in such a fresh and fast, intense way.
Right, and
Yeah.
he still has the pop culture kind of boiling in the background. That scene near the beginning where Robert De Niro and Ordell are drinking rum punch, and they're watching that show, Chicks Who Loves Guns, I think it's called. And I mean, the judge, when Jackie's first arraigned and getting bail and she stands mute, the judge is Sid Haig. Later on, when they're at Melanie's house, at the little button, the first name is S. Haig. Just little jokes like that, I think.
Yeah.
And I mean, a bail bondsman whose name is Cherry and his logo is a cherry. That's kind of adorable for a man who works with, convicts and outlaws.
Absolutely. And I like the idea of, like you said, of him being a likable protagonist, and I also like that he's a boring protagonist in that, it allows for you to literally see the kind of gears turning in his head at a lot of moments.
Yeah.
Which you don't get a lot in Tarantino, where it is like that breakneck pace, like you see
And
in
because
the mall
the characters are
sequences.
used to criminal activity, whereas Max Cherry is on the fringes. He provides, so when he's watching Jackie do the trial run of her plan, he watches the whole thing, and he's out in the parking lot. He's like, "It could work. It could work."
Yeah. Like you're literally experiencing almost like a practical, critical thinking occur on screen,
Right.
Which is so interesting. It's like pushing someone with all of the skills in theory to perform a job, but they've never performed that job before, putting them into that situation, being like, okay, figure it out, bye.
Right.
And then watching them from a distance while they, you can see the gears turning, and it's very much, a very synopsized version of that. It's very interesting.
Almost like like his whole character is almost like an old like a 40s 50s like detective kind of a thing. It's almost
very
it's
noir
almost like
throwback.
he's settled into this,
Or I guess noir is
this
traditionally
role
criminals, but
as a bail bondsman after a
a good
career of this, like maybe even carrying over things like the Cherry's detective agency to Cherry's bail bonds. Like it's like he did, he it's what he kind of like
the way that everyone comes in too. It's very film noir, or like, again, I don't like to use it as a film noir because although like in modern day we perceive film noir as being predominantly detective films, they're not. They're crime films. But it's so cool that kind of classic detective film kind of trope used, where these people are all coming in and sitting down, and these characters are being introduced to Cherry in the kind of confines of his office, the same way as you would see in a detective novel or a detective film.
He's like a big-hearted PI.
And I mean, he dresses like a guy from the 50s. His pants come up to almost his pecs. It looks ridiculous. He's completely emotionally vacant. Like Jackie's trying to ask him how he feels about getting older, because she's getting older. Feels like she's starting over every 5 years, and he's just like, I haven't thought about it. And that's all he has to say. And like his office, when you first meet Max Cherry, he's on the phone with a completely unrelated case, has nothing to do with the movie. They're just showing you that because he's a busy guy, and that's what he does, right? So it's showing you that these characters have they're fully fleshed out, they have rich interiority. So that's why Jackie Brown feels like they're real people, because all of them pretty much are. I mean, I mean, Melanie mentions knowing Robert De Niro's character before he went away for bank robbery.
Yeah.
That's why they feel so familiar with each other, because they knew each other back then. I don't know.
I also love that Jackie gets Ordell's car.
That's right. The one that goes, ooh, ooh, ooh. Right? They take everything else, but she gets to keep it. Like, she's only driving that to the airport, right?
Yeah,
so
literally
she's probably
driving to
not
the
going to get
airport.
caught with it.
Yeah.
But even at the end, having got what she wants, she's singing that Bobby Womack song, Cross 110th Street. She doesn't look particularly happy, does she?
Yeah.
She looks like she's going to cry. She's all pensive.
Yeah,
like,
she's very, sorry. That's,
and it's not
that's a
just
great
because of
word.
Max. I think it's because of everything that happened to her in the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's just
First time she got
the
to
relief
show
of this, of being like, that feeling when you don't think you're going to be able to get out of a situation, and then you do, and it's just like it's such a weight coming off of you at once that it's jarring,
Overwhelming,
Yeah. I can.
It is pretty great, though. Just off topic, just to cross 110th Street, because like nobody's like, how many people here have actually seen that movie?
No,
Exactly. I own the soundtrack on vinyl and I haven't seen the movie, but I love
Yeah.
the music in it.
Right.
You know, that scene's that music, that song's great.
Yeah,
The whole
and
scene's
it
great.
only bookends the movie. The Delphonics one comes in and out 4 or 5 times, but Across 110th Street is at the very beginning with the moving sidewalk, and at the very end when she's again moving back to the airport. So
Which is pretty classic of like movies at that time too, to bookend
Right.
them with that same song, because 110th Street starts off pretty much almost identical to Jackie Brown,
Yeah.
with like the running scene and like the music's going and stuff like that, and you got your main actor, and it ends just like that. So it was a very good hats off to.
right. I mean, that
Exploitation.
first scene when she's on the moving sidewalk introduces to you the color scheme of the movie, the wall in the background, the black exploitation font,
Yeah.
all of that stuff.
Classic.
The
pastel
scene where
colors.
De Niro, gets rid of Melanie.
Okay, showing someone
is
Pulp
great.
Fiction for the first time, I just could not wait for her reaction to, obviously, Marvin getting his face shot off, because that's really, really funny.
Yeah.
But also Melanie getting shot.
Yeah.
It's like, because Tarantino has gone on record saying that violence, if done right, can be extremely funny, and it is.
It is.
Because, I mean, she's been bothering Lewis the whole morning. She's deliberately late. She tries to carry the bag, but he takes it,
Yeah.
Finally, he tells her. He doesn't tell her what he's going to do. Maybe she would have listened. But, yeah, he just shoot. And then afterwards, like the discussion with Ordell, he's like, we do not want that woman surviving on us. Anyone but that woman. Where'd you shoot her? He's like, well, the stomach and the chest. Is she dead? Pretty much.
The fact that he said pretty much.
Like, you think maybe she's not dead.
Yeah.
She has to be dead.
Yeah.
It's like he's committed to it. Like I love that about his character, that like he tells her, like, you say one more word, and then there's almost that moment when she does where he's like, no, it's important. Like, I told her it's important.
I know.
enough.
You could totally see it. You could obviously see it in his face too.
If
The
I don't
restraint.
shoot her, then
Yeah.
And he's still talking to her after she's dead. He's like, just where I said it was. It's right over here. And like Ordell's not even that surprised. Like, well, if you have to shoot her, you have to shoot her, right?
yeah.
It's impossible for me to think that movie is happening in the 90s. It just feels like the 1970s in that movie.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It just does.
Yeah. It's not just the characters, but the whole situation and like everything is just so believable in that movie versus the others that it really is a standout. Like that's in my top 3.
Absolutely.
I would say Pulp Fiction and Glorious Bastards in that movie. And I really do have a tough time saying, which I would show somebody first. I think Jackie Brown, I was so hesitant to see originally. Like
Yeah.
I just didn't think
Yeah.
it looked that interesting.
And you're
And-
so
I saved
pleased
it for
coming out of that.
last.
Yeah.
I didn't see it till after Death Proof came out.
Really?
Yeah, I
Same here.
waited a really long time
Same-
to see that movie.
same.
Yeah. See, my
Same.
order was Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, Jackie Brown.
Oh, you did it the classic way. You've
I
done
did-
it in chronological order.
Yeah, I've literally seen these films in order. Which
From
is-
Bastards on, I've done chronological. But that's not saying much. There's only 2 there.
I think I watched
And
Jackie
it's
Brown for
accidental.
the
The whole
first
thing, it's
time
amazing.
on Netflix at when we were living on Darcy Street. I think that
This
was
episode
like my
brought to you by
first-
Netflix.
first experience, which would have been like around like
2008.
2000, yeah.
Watch the new Marvel series.
That Jessica Jones really is wonderful. Netflix.
Oh yeah, one other thing I needed to mention about Jackie Brown. It does have the classic trunk shot, carrying on that tradition from the first two, right? It's got Reservoir Dogs is the trunk shot.
Yep.
I think when Madsen steals the cop.
The cop, yep.
Pulp Fiction would be when they're getting ready to shoot Brad and get back the briefcase. And in Jackie Brown, it's when Ordell, Samuel L. Jackson's character, is trying to convince Chris Tucker's character
to get in the trunk.
get in the trunk. All him has to do is get in the trunk and hold his shotgun.
and
It makes it sound believable somehow.
And in Kill Bill, it's when
With,
she puts Lucy Liu's
Sophie Patel?
Yeah, when she puts her in the trunk, when she's got her arm cut off, and then takes her out of the trunk, and then throws her fucking down the hill.
Does Death Proof have a trunk shot?
And she's so goddamn beautiful, that actress. What the hell is her name? I know it, and I can't think of it.
Death Proof?
She's
It should have a trunk shot, shouldn't it?
Didn't the Australian go in the trunk before he put her on the hood?
She didn't go in the trunk before she went on the... Wait, maybe.
Who? And what?
No, Zoe in Death Proof. Did she go in the trunk before she went on the hood?
I feel like someone went in the trunk. You'd think in a car movie.
You'd think in a Tarantino movie about cars, someone would go
someone's got to get in a trunk somewhere.
One thing I forgot to mention about Death Proof is that scene where one of the girls is asleep, just napping in the back, and Kurt Russell licks her toe or something. You know?
Yeah,
and
that's
then
a real Tarantino moment.
He has to pretend he's there to like find his keys, and he's just like, "Where's my keys? Here they are!" Like in the same sentence. Like, he's not even trying.
Oh yeah, man. He's jokes.
Well, any final thoughts, gentlemen, before we wrap this up on Tarantino as a whole, on your film, on what you're looking forward to in the future? Obviously, Hateful Eight's on the way this Christmas,
Which has a lot of echoes of Reservoir Dogs. If we're talking a bottle kind of movie, they're all in the same.
And now that I know about
almost
that
be
Twilight Zone tie-in, I'm super excited.
Sounds like it could almost be like Reservoir Dogs. I always thought was a stage play. You know what I mean? And here's the thing. And I went to
very much could be.
And so I went to Neil McNeil, all boys Catholic high school. So when we had a drama department, they were like, "So what play are we gonna do?" In my head, I'm just like, "Well, the only one we can actually do is Reservoir Dogs, because we need maybe one female, which we can get from Dame. But other than that, all the boys could do this. Sure, it's one scene.
Well, are you just talking the girl that shoots Tim Roth? Because really, you could put a guy in a wig just to shoot Tim Roth.
Yeah, it's true.
Wear a dress. You got a gun. It's masculine overall.
But I just love his use of Kurt Russell. I think Kurt Russell needs to be used more in film. He's wonderful.
He is.
I think even though we're talking about bests and worst, I mean, it's like talking about the difference between a 95 and a 98%. Just shut up about it. Just see all of them.
Yeah.
Don't if there's anyone that we have spoken ill of in any minor way, I don't think we really did.
No, if you haven't seen any of these movies that we've talked about, fucking watch them. Stop what you're doing right now. If you had plans, call that person up, tell them, go fuck yourself. I'm going to be locked down for the next 24 hours, and just watch them all through, because they're...
Or if you tell them, they'll probably watch them with you.
Yeah, just invite them over. Yeah, what am I saying? Yeah, of course. Get your friends together, have a marathon. A Tarantino marathon is both grueling and satisfying, more so than many other marathons that you could possibly do out there. So consider it. Get some friends together and do that. But you got to watch these films.
Yeah, I guess one last point I'd add is there's been mounting criticism of self-parody over the years and self-referentiality and all that, which I don't really think is fair. Any great artist, their past is this hot jacket they can't take off.
And it's not something you should be ashamed of either.
No, but they're consistently compared to great work they've done before, and it's even as a huge fan, it's hard for me to go in and watch one of his movies and not... I'm not comparing it while I'm watching it, but I'm expecting the greatness that I felt with his previous films. But I mean, Death Proof, it seemed like he was on a downward trajectory, but then Bastards was so good, it's obvious the guy can still make any kind of movie he still wants to make, so I'm not worried about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's it for you, Devon? Nothing else?
Yeah. I mean, Pulp Fiction, like, pretty open and shut.
All right. So remember, this is just the beginning of the conversation. We want to continue it on with you. So please go to our website, yell at us there, reach out to us on Twitter. I'm at not Brandon Fleet. Do you guys want to offer up your Twitters?
At Ant East.
I'm at YR_homeboy. That's your homeboy.
Holla at your homeboy.
Holla at me.
I'm at Leafs Love Hurts, as in the Toronto Maple Leafs. Love Hurts. All right.
All right.
That's it.
If you're watching us on YouTube, you can find us on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, or your SoundCloud, or your favorite podcatcher, whatever that may be. Take us with you where you go, in the car, in the bathroom, wherever we can be with you, and not in a creepy way. If you are listening to the podcast, thank you, and you can check out all of our cool stuff on YouTube. We've got tons of good clips for stuff coming up, stuff that's past. If you want to kind of get a vibe for a show, see if you like the panel, whatever. And I really want to continue this conversation on because we barely scratched the surface on the things that we could discuss with Tarantino. So please reach out to us and tell us what movie you would introduce a new viewer to Tarantino with.
And why?
And why? Yeah, we want it in essay format, please. And other than that, thanks for hanging out with us.
Man, that was a goodie. That was getting heated.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I'm sorry.